Hello and welcome back to Buckle Up. I'm Harry King and this is a Ford Ranger. For the past few years it's been the best-selling pickup truck in the UK, and today I'm going to find out why. Okay, so we're going to start here at the front. We've got a great big Ford badge straight up, and then Ranger written across the top of the grille, which is a little touch they do on their pickup trucks. Fairly standard, fog lights, headlights, large 18-inch wheels. You've got the model name written down here on the side, and a nice big side step which helps getting in because this is a tall vehicle. And then back here, the pièce de résistance. There's a roll-top cover. It's nice. It means that effectively you have the world's biggest boot, but it is £1,600, so don't know if I would get it myself. And then moving around the back here, we have the tailgate, trim level, name written again. And as you can see, there is space for so much stuff in here. Okay, so let's talk about all the things that are really important actually if you're looking to buy a vehicle like this. We'll start with the towing capacity. In all but the base level, so XLT and above, and also any engines with more than 130 horsepower, it's 3.5 tons braked towing capacity. And also in the bed, all versions of the truck can take at least a ton. Even this, with the auto and everything else, will still take more than a ton in the bed. Your load length's 1.6 meters, your load width is over 1.5 meters, so you'll get a Euro pallet in. So it ticks all the boxes from a truck point of view. And if you've got this roll top cover, this is just a massive, massive boot. It's so practical. You've got tie down hooks in there, so you can try and secure things, stop them moving around, because this is a bit slippy. Obviously, it's just a bed liner. It's not carpeted. And you do also have, back in the bed, you've got a power port if you want to power a large piece of equipment on a job site or something like that. Shall we look in the back seats? Here in the back, behind a tall driver, space is at a little bit of a premium. I can't quite get my knees in behind my seat in my driving position. However, headroom is excellent. There's lots of space widthways, obviously. This car's nearly, it's just over 2 meters wide. Now, there's a couple of nifty features in here that you will not get in most cars. The main one is, down here, you've got a full-on home-style outlet, so you can plug in anything that requires a home-style outlet. You've got power for it there. You've also got a 12-volt socket down here if you want to charge your phones, but you don't have any USBs. There's also no air vents. You've got seat back pockets, you've got grab handles. You've also got a center armrest with a couple of cup holders in it. That is nice. So the thing is with a pickup truck, is you don't have an underboot floor, so instead what you get down here, you have your jack, a little bit of sort of hidden storage space as well. You can also take that forwards, but there's not really any storage back there at all. But otherwise, let's move on to the front. Okay, and in the front, obviously there's a lot more legroom to start off with. It's actually really, really nice in here. They've done a really good job of dressing up, ultimately, a utility vehicle and making it feel premium, which they need to, because this truck's 45 grand. So you do expect premium touches in the cabin. You've got a sort of pleasant soft touch steering wheel. You've got soft touch on the dashboard. Nice medium-ish size screen. This is showing its age a bit. This model has been on sale for 11 years now. So the fact there's such a large infotainment screen in here is quite impressive. There are, though, a couple of things that give the game away. The fuse box cover down here is very flimsy. That wobbles side to side quite badly. Stuff like that. It's not really a big issue. It just, if you're used to driving SUVs and you're moving over to something like this, it won't be to the same standard. But this is a truck built to work. So as much as things might feel flimsy, in theory, they should be strongly enough put together to withstand some proper abuse. Now, practicality in here, you've got 2 cup holders here in the center console. You have an absolutely colossal center storage bin, and it's got a little lid section as well. You've got a nice big cubby down here for your phone with 2 USBs in it, and they hook up to the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. You've got a colossal glove box. I mean, that's just massive. We've got a 2-litre bottle in there, and really big door bins with a bottle cut out in them as well. So for storage, you're absolutely fine. And my favourite, little sunglasses holder. Every single car should have one of these. I will die on this hill. You've also got grab handles up front, even on the driver's side, which is a little bit odd. And these ones here, which help you climb in and out of the car. In terms of controls, I find this slightly odd. It's got the standard Ford switch gear, which Ford Fiesta, Ford Focus feels fine. On a pickup truck feels, I don't know, just a little bit too fey for the rest of this truck. is so big and chunky, and then you've just got a little plastic, I don't know, I'm not, yeah, I'd have done something different if I'd been designing the car. And then down here you've got the auto gearbox. You've also got, along with your gear stick, you've got your selector for your four-wheel drive, and you've got a diff lock, a hill descent control, traction control, parking sensors, and auto stop start turn on and off. You've got physical AC controls, which is really nice. You don't have to fiddle with a screen, and then a volume and a radio knob as well. But obviously all of those things are mirrored on the steering wheel. Ford are still sticking with the proper handbrake, which I really, especially in off-roading, it's nice to have a proper handbrake. It's so nice in here though. These seats are lovely. You've got these slightly odd carbon style inserts, which I'm not so sure about. But in terms to sit in, absolutely divine. You've got lumbar support. This driver's seat's fully electric. It's those little touches that make something just feel premium. I think I've nattered on for long enough though, haven't I? Shall we go for a drive? So, driving the Ford Ranger. First things first, this is a pickup truck. So you have classic pickup truck things. There is a wobble from the sort of back end due to the ladder frame chassis, and there's leaf springs. It's not as refined as an SUV or a crossover would be. For a pickup truck, it is quite refined, but it's not class leading. Now that's out of the way, let's talk about the things that really make this different from nearly any car that's sold in this country, at least. Is this has the Ford GM longitudinal 10-speed automatic gearbox. That's right, 10 speeds. Now, there's one part of me that thinks that's too much, and I can hear it hunting around sometimes, and it feels unnecessary and overcomplicated. But on the other hand, it is so smooth. Whenever I put my foot down, it just goes, because it's always capable of dropping into an ideal rev range for the engine. It's very competent, it doesn't hesitate, it's very smooth, but there's a part of me that thinks, but is this too much? Because 7, by the way, that's a 1-to-1 ratio. So your last 3 gears are all overdrives. You've got 3 overdrive gears. And you would think, oh, well, that'll reap you great economy. Well, actually, the combined economy on this engine is just over 30 mpg. I have been getting in the high 20s in mixed driving. On a long motorway cruise, I did achieve over 30 mpg, but most of the time you're going to be seeing somewhere between 24 and 28 mpg, which is quite slow. The throttle and brake feel are spot on. Obviously it's an auto. This does also have a system on it where it can detect the load in the back and adjust the ABS accordingly, which is very clever. This has 213 horsepower, which is quite healthy, and 500 newton meters of torque, which is a lot. There is a 170 horsepower engine that has 420 newton meters of torque. There is also a 130 horsepower engine. I wouldn't bother with it. It gives back the same combined economy figure as the 170 horsepower engine. So if you're interested in economy, the 170 horsepower engine will get you along the road just fine, and it should return 40 mpg. That's quite good, really. 40 mpg would be quite good, but the high 20s, not so great. Obviously, the upside of that is this truck is quite fast, but that's relative, okay? Before you all shout me in the comments. 0 to 60 in 9 seconds. So no, not outright speed, but for a pickup truck in this country, that is quite quick. That's around the figures that you'll get from a lot of family crossovers, SUVs. You'll get figures in the 9-second range, 0 to 60, or figures around the 200 horsepower mark. So really it fits in very well, and it wouldn't be as a jarring jump to move from, say, a Volvo XC60 to something like this. Steering, it's an electric rack on here. It does a good job. It's light, it's nice and light round town, and then it does weight up out in the country. So you can chuck this through a corner if you want, but I wouldn't. I haven't been. It doesn't encourage you to drive that way either. that's not the point of a vehicle like this. Perhaps the Raptor, you'd feel more inclined, but of course that has an entirely different suspension setup. The driving position is standard, fairly standard for this type of car, so commanding, in other words. You're up with the van drivers and all the other high-seated vehicles, Land Rovers, Range Rovers, that sort of thing. And you have a brilliant view of the road. There's a nice big glass house on this truck. There's huge wing mirrors, and at the edges they do the Hall of Mirrors thing, so you can really see a lot. Plus you've got a reversing camera, so obviously you have the blind spot due to the bed low down behind the truck. That's covered by the camera, so you don't have to worry about that when you're reversing. Although it is worth saying that both the camera and the reversing sensors are options. I would thoroughly recommend ticking them as an option. This would not be a fun vehicle to try and park in any kind of compact space or maneuver without extra sensors and cameras. The whole infotainment system's quite good. I tend to just use the Android Auto, as I do in basically any car it's fitted in, but the system's nice and responsive, everything's nice and clear. You do also have 2 digital screens in the gauge cluster. They are somewhat configurable. The left-hand one will tell you stuff about what's going on the dash. I think it'll give you sort of like a turn-by-turn guide for directions, or it'll tell you what media's playing. The right-hand one is your usual sort of trip computer stuff, your fuel economy or your trip distance, things like that. And then you just have a central analog speedo dial. If you shift down into sports mode, yes, I know, sports mode on a 10-speed gearbox, you do get a rev indicator in that right-hand digital gauge, and a ratio indicator, so you can tell what gear you're in, which is very helpful, because trying to count up and down 10 gears, not the easiest thing to do, especially when this changes gear so smoothly. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Now, for the stuff I like, the reason I like pickup trucks, off-roading capability. So you've got a few electronic systems to help you out. You've got hill descent control, you've got electronically activated differential, rear differential, and you've obviously got your 4 high, 4 low transfer case you can shift into. But there's no terrain response, there's nothing like that, or I guess it would be GOAT in a Ranger. That's what they have on the Bronco, isn't it? But it's just a fairly simple, honest 4-wheel drive system. It is very good. It's got decent figures on it. So you've got a 28-degree approach angle, a 24-degree breakover angle, and a 27-degree departure angle. It's quite a good departure angle for a pickup truck. Obviously, they often have quite a long overhang. You've got 9.1 inches of ground clearance, or at 237 millimeters, depending on whichever floats your boat. Again, very good, but not adjustable, doesn't have air suspension or anything like that. So if you need more ground clearance like that in a pickup truck, well, you could go and buy something like a D-Max AT35 or a Raptor, or you could get a suspension lift, but you're not going to be able to get adjustable suspension on pickup trucks in this country. You also have an 800mm wading depth, which is very deep. You would not want to go through any water that was deeper than 800mm, even if you were capable. Trust me. So all in all, a lot of great off-road stuff. If you spent the same amount of money on a crossover, you'd probably have a nicer feeling cabin. Most of this cabin does feel very nice, and it looks up to date. Ford did a big refresh about 5 years ago, and they put an entirely new dashboard in. And then obviously a couple of years ago, they completely updated the engine range. So I keep mentioning this is an 11-year-old model, but it's a bit of a Trigger's broom, really. A lot of this truck is really quite up to date. And stuff like the steering wheel feels really nice. The door cards are good. There's a bit of hard plastic up here, but it feels nice and robust. But there's just things like the center console wobbling, as I've mentioned, and some of these bits lower down feel a bit flimsy. And maybe they're not, but perceived quality sometimes is as important as actual quality. So if you're making the transition, or you're thinking of making the transition from some kind of family SUV, just maybe consider that this is ultimately pinned on a commercial vehicle, so that is notable in places.
I'm imagining, I'm guessing probably that in the new one, which is coming out very soon, probably some of these things will be a little bit more polished because pickup trucks are becoming more popular, and I can absolutely see why. It's the same reason that people went over to SUVs, as you feel like you can go anywhere, you've got lots of capability, you've got this fantastic driving position where you feel completely in control, and it just, I guess to a certain kind of person, it just gives you this feeling of security. This is a lot more polished, refined vehicle than the Isuzu was. The Isuzu had more indicators of being a roughy-tufty pickup. It had its more agricultural engine and a sort of 6-speed box that was good, but it wasn't just beautifully smooth in the way this one is. I think a lot of people could step into one of these out of a Nissan Qashqai, let's say. They wouldn't feel hard done to. Well, that's probably enough talking from me then, isn't it? Why don't we go back and do a little bit of a conclusion?
Okay, so the Ford Ranger, Britain's best-selling pickup truck. Can I see why? Absolutely. It's a jack of all trades. It'll do off-roading, it'll do towing, it'll do family car duties. If you want to trade in your family car, your family SUV and get one of these, you won't be disappointed. The engine is punchy, the interior is nice, and the gearbox is incredibly smooth, and overall it gives you a very refined feel for a pickup truck. Yes, there's the leaf springs in the back, but ultimately, other than a couple of little niggly things on the interior, this is a really great package. For an 11-year-old truck, this is astounding. It's still matching its rivals, all of which are much newer than it. And of course, there's going to be a new one in the next year. And I really can't wait to see how good that one is, because this one's pretty darn good. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Tell me what your favourite pickup truck is. I'll be especially interested to hear if it's not sold in the UK. We have all of our links in the description for all of our social medias, or we have a merch store down there as well. You can buy yourself some lovely t-shirts or hats or cups or something else that we sell. Or we have a Patreon or channel memberships. That's lots of ors, but there are lots of ways that you can show your appreciation and help support us. And it's always greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.